This is step 4 of the BAM system. In step 4, we're going to be looking at the individual chapters and how to remember what the verses are, whether it's thought for thought or word for word. Word for word is when you would quote the scripture. Thought for thought is when you know what the scripture says, but you can't quote it. Kind of like when somebody asks you directions to a certain place, and you say, well, I know how to get there, but I can't explain how to get there to you. Word for word is when you can quote the verse word for word. For example, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. So that would be word for word. How we're going to do that is by learning an advanced memory technique called the major system. The major system uses sounds and items to remind you of what the number is. Because there's so many verse numbers and we're going to be memorizing so many of those, it's really hard to remember what all those numbers are, and they can get confusing. But by using pictures, we can remember what those verses are much easier. In the major system, there are 10 sounds that you're going to need to memorize. The first sound, number 1, is the T sound. And you can remember that because the number 1 is a straight line. And if you just put a little cross on it, you get the letter T. So it's the T sound. But it also makes the D sound. So you can also use a straight line and put a little loop at the bottom and you get the letter D. So 1 is the T or D sound. 2 is the N sound. The way you remember that is the letter N has 2 lines going down, 2 descender lines. So you've got the N sound, N. 3 is the M sound. Easy to memorize. 3 little descenders. It's number 3. It's the letter M, M. So 3 is M. 4 is the R sound. When you say the word for, it's like for, So it's easy to remember what 4 is because it's the sound. 5 is the L sound. If you take your hand and you hold it like this, you get the letter L. And if you do this, you get loser, reminds you of L. 6 is the CH sound or the SH sound, like sh or j. So the S is the sh or the j sound. CH or a J, like judge. That's the sound that 6 makes. Number 7 is the k or g sound. If you take the number 7 and you combine it with 2 other number 7s and you just turn them a little bit, you can come up with the K. And K is going to remind you of the K sound or the G sound. Number 8 is the V or F sound. So if you take the number 8 and you look at a cursive F, the cursive F looks a lot like the number 8. So that is a great way to remember 8 is the F or V sound. Number 9 is the B or P sound, B or P. So if you take the number 9, it is just like the letter B upside down, or the letter P backwards. So P is B or P. Final number is 0. The 0 makes the S sound. S or Z sound, which is Z. Review these, get to know those sounds. A good way of doing this is throughout the day, just look at, whenever you see a number, try to remember what that sound makes. And within a few days, you'll have mastered this and it'll be super easy for you. All right. Now, there are some other sounds that have no numerical value. A, E, I, O, U, W, H, and Y. W, H, Y, I, O, U. None of these sounds have a numerical value. So what you do is you take the numbers that do have a numerical value and you add them with a sound that doesn't have a numerical value. For example, if you take the number 6, which makes the sh sound, and you add a oo sound to it, you get shoe. So whenever you see a shoe, that should remind you of the number 6. Let's get more complicated where we've got double digits. All right, so what if you have a number 16? The t sound and the sh sound. So the t sound, the duh, and the sh. So a dish. Dish would be 16. Or dash. Or dodge. How about the number 44? Rare, because it's and add a in there. Rare. 67. Sh and ka. That'd be shake. 35. Ma and L. Male. Or mole. Or mule. Or mile. Or meal. And there's a lot more words that you can come up with. If you can think of a word for a number, put it in the description. Put it down here below in the comments. That'll be fun. Okay, now that we understand the major system, what we want to do is we want to read the chapter of our Bible and divide those verses into sections or parts. Some verses will be so good that they stand by themselves, and you're going to want to remember that verse individually. But some verses will have maybe three verses that have a complete thought. You would never quote the verse without quoting all three together. Some verses will be a whole story. So what you want to do is you want to take the first verse of that story and you want to make a picture out of it. For example, if that little section of story started at verse 11, then you would take that 11 and you would create an image for it. So it's 1 and 1, ta and ta, add some non-numerical sounds to it, and you can get a dead, or toad, or deed, or died, or dodo. What you want to do is you want to choose a thing with the rules of the major system that possibly would best represent what that story is, or that would be easy to link to that story. So you're getting your pictures, you're writing them down on a piece of paper, or in my case, what I do is I use notes on my Apple phone, and I have a whole list of different things. And what you want to do is you want to do the same thing. It's good for you to go through this process. By going through this process, It forces you to read those chapters in such a way that you're really concentrating on what is being said, because you have to divide the chapters into groups. Now, you could take what I've done and just go with that. But the problem is you're not going through the process. The process helps you to remember, and it helps you to think what those scriptures are saying. So I want you to learn the process. If you want to use the things that I use, things that I've posted on how I memorize those chapters, you can do that, and I encourage you to. But I would also like for you to really try to learn how to do this yourself, and because you're going to use things that help you to remember those items better than if you were to just use the things that I tend to remember better. So there you go. That is part 1 of step 4 in the BAM system. Part 2, we're going to look at how to memorize an individual verse. And I'll have to tell you, this to me is the best part and the most fun. I love doing this part. It's fantastic. So check out the next video. You can go to my website, BAMsystem.org, and it will show you all the video steps in order, so you can click on whichever step that you need to learn and watch those videos over. Don't worry, you're not going to have to spend days and days and days learning this system in order to memorize verses. You can start right away, but you want to keep building your understanding and the habit of using the BAM system in order to optimize your memory work in the long run. And you can do this. You can do this. I know that you can. And it's going to be fantastic. Trust me. Just stay with it. Trust me. It'll be good. And I'll be here to encourage you. So thank you for sticking with me on this. This was a big video. And come back for part 2 of step 4.